Let's
Recording in progress.
start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm doing a tap dance at the moment because Jen has to get her recorder going. So we'll all say hello. Welcome everyone back from vacation. Are we ready?
I am ready, thank you.
Okay. We are going to start with approving the minutes from July 26th trustee workshop. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Kim. Any comments, changes, adjustments? All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, I now would like a motion to open our public hearing to review proposed local law C, which is a local law to amend the regulations for daycare facilities. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is now a public hearing regarding local law number C related to daycare facilities. I will just start by saying that we have received comments back from Dutchess County Planning, and their commentary was related to state law. So there is state law preempts local jurisdiction regarding daycare uses. There's Social Services Law 390, which deals directly with child daycare uses. The state defines several different types of daycares, including group family daycare home and family daycare home and child daycare center. Their definitions include particulars about time per day, as in how long a day, and the age of the children to be cared for, and a minimum and a maximum number. So whatever we do, we can't do something that's in conflict with state law, because state law overrides village law in that case. And so the county just recommended that we look at our nomenclature and make sure that's in compliance. Otherwise, they said that it is of local concern. So given that, before I let, I know that I'm sure there's some people here too for comments. I just wanted to say that in reviewing that, I asked for two adjustments. One is, instead of nursery school / daycare facility, we've actually adjusted that to say childcare facility, which I think is simpler and clearer. And then the only other was to clarify the legislative intent. So just adding that the village seeks to amend its zoning law to reduce regulatory barriers to opening new daycare facilities within the general business and gateway business districts of the village of Red Hook. Because we did not address any changes within the residential districts, it was just to create allowance for the general business and the gateway business districts for the village. So those are the two amendments that I am recommending from the law as it was posted on the website and made available. With that, if there's anyone in the public who would like to make a comment, you can either raise your hand physically or through the system, and then Jillian can let you Actually, you can just unmute yourself. I don't think you're restricted. So whoever wants to start, go ahead. And if you would start with your name and address, please, or the street you live on.
Hi, I can start. My name is Anusha Byrne. I live at 30 Louise Terrace. Thank you so much to the village board for moving this amendment forward so quickly. I think it was, when we brought it up, I think it moved forward at a pace that was really supportive of having childcare in the village. And thank you for those of you who are here to support the amendment. There's clearly a need for childcare in Red Hook, and I think the village sees that. So I moved here with my family only in November, and it was incredibly stressful to find childcare for my kids, who are now 4 and 2. There were many points over the past few months where I thought I would lose my job, which is something that we depend on for financial reasons and for healthcare. And I've heard, through meeting other families, I've heard that this is a broader issue for people in the area. So as an educator with a background in early childhood education, I'd like to take the initiative to start a school and provide families with more options for high quality childcare. The hardest part so far in this journey has been finding the real estate, the place to do this. And so the property we are looking at right now is located in the village. My husband, he grew up in the village, and so the village is close to our hearts, and we would love for it to work out here. But we are not yet in contract with that property, so we're not ready to share what that location is just yet. Whether it opens in the village or not, this zoning amendment is a really important step to expand childcare options for those of us who depend on it. I fully support the amendment, and I hope that it will pass tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions from you all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
If I may.
Please.
My name is Dr. Lyon. I live at 20 Tro Boulevard. And when my husband and I moved here a few years ago, actually the beginning of the pandemic, we weren't really focused on childcare. We have 2 little ones, 5 and 2-year-old. And over the last year, it's been a really challenging moment for us as parents who run our own business and work for ourselves to find childcare that is conveniently accessible within the town and within the village. And so I think that this is a really great opportunity, selfishly for us, but also for parents and in families across the board within the village.
Thank you. Paul, you need to unmute yourself, though. I think you hit it twice. There you go.
I did. Rookie mistake. Thank you. My name is Paul Byrne. I live at 30 Louise Terrace in Milan, Rhinebeck, with Anusha, my wife. I'm really excited to be here tonight in support of this amendment. As Anusha mentioned, I grew up in the village of Red Hook, just down the street from the village hall, and really excited to be back in the neighborhood, in the area. But one of the challenges has certainly been finding care for our children. I got a job that allowed me to work remotely, and that's what allowed us to move back to the area from being in New York City for 18 years after graduating high school here. And when I was asked to start traveling more for work, I was unable to do so, and I actually had to leave my job because I couldn't meet those expectations that they were hoping for me, because we didn't have the childcare at home to support them. And so this is obviously something that we have personally experienced, and something that we've heard a great deal about from our friends and connections here. And I'm certainly biased, but Anusha is an incredible educator that I know will provide just an excellent experience for the young kids of the Redmond area. And I certainly hope that we can make that a reality.
Thank you. I think that's it for who I see in the public. Would the board like to make any comments? Oh, yes, sorry. There is a comment from Beth Pagano. I'll just read her email. I have read the proposed local law regarding daycare centers. It appears that there is a minimum of 6 children to be approved as a daycare center. However, there does not seem to be an upper limit in residential districts. Does this mean that someone can open a daycare center with 30 children and the attendant equipment in an R 10,000 or in an R 20,000 area? Please clarify for me. If this reading of the local law is correct, I would propose an upper limit on the number of children. Village lots are very small, and an unlimited number of children can have a big impact on the neighboring homes, which are on small lots. And I am happy to actually clarify that. As I mentioned in the beginning, there are state regulations that supersede any village regulations. We are not proposing any changes to the residential code at this point, but the state regulations, and they reference it as in-home family daycare, is 3 to 6 children, and then in-home group family daycare is 7 to 12 children of all ages. So even from a state standpoint, the maximum is 12. We do have setbacks, setback requirements. The group family daycare would be, if I understand it correctly, would be more the commercial variety, so it's not in your single-family home, so it would be an accessory dwelling unit. But even still, the state regulations also require a certain number of square footage per child, et cetera. And so there are other factors that would limit the number of children given the size of your property. But so there is actually an upper limit, even though we don't spell it out in the law.
So Karen, just to clarify, the group family daycare would be an in-home daycare. It would be, someone has to live in a group family daycare. A daycare center is what, we were talking about. And that, I think, when you're alluding to the square footage, there's definitely the limit for, it's about like 35 to 40 square foot per child.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I imagine you know a little bit about this by now.
Learned a few things, yeah.
Okay, so those are all the public comments that we have. Would the board like to make any
I had a
comments?
question, Mayor. I mean, the language changes are only pertaining to the general business and gateway business districts.
Correct.
So nothing's changing language-wise in the residential districts.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, it was our intention to add the general business district and the gateway business district to have daycare as an allowable use, because it currently isn't. Any other questions or comments?
No, nothing at this time.
Okay, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved?
Thank you. Second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, so the process now is, we do need to go through the full environmental assessment form, and then we have a resolution. So we're getting good at this. We've done this before. This is, because it is for a large portion of the village, that's what triggers the full environmental assessment form. So we need to do part 2 and part 3. So impact on land, proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. The answer to that is no. I'm just going to go through these, and if you have any questions or feel the answer should be different, please speak up. Impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. The answer to that is no. Impacts on surface water. Proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. The answer to that is no. Impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. The answer to that is no. Impact on flooding. I guess perhaps unless there are too many water fights. But the proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding. The answer to that is no. Impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. No. Impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. The answer to that is no. Impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. That is no. Impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetics resource. No. Impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. Yes. The answer to that is yes. But then the answers to the details around that in terms of, this is related to where this is in the village, and there are some archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site, or district which is listed on the National or State Register of Historical Places, or that has been determined by the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible for citing on the State Register of Historic Places. And the answer to that is no, or small impact may occur. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites in New York State Historic Preservation Office Archaeological Site Inventory. The answer to that is also no, or small impact may occur. Proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included in the New York SHPO inventory. Again, no, or small impact. Okay, number 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designed in any adopted municipal open space plan. No. Impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. No. Impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. The answer to that is yes, but all the questions, the specific questions, it's really no or small impact. So projected traffic increase may exceed capacity of existing road network. No, we're not talking with a large number of vehicles. Proposed action may result in the construction of paved parking for 500 or more vehicles. The answer to that is no. The proposed action will degrade existing transit access. No. The proposed action will degrade existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations. No. Proposed action may alter the present pattern of movement of people or goods. That's a no or small impact. Okay, number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. No. Impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. No. Impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. No. Almost done. Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. The answer to that is no. Consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. The answer to that is no. So that is part 2. And then we have part 3, which is evaluation of the magnitude and importance of project impacts and determination of significance. Upon review of the information recorded in this EAF as noted, plus this additional support information, the board's own knowledge of the village, and considering both the magnitude and importance of each identified potential impact, it is the conclusion of the Village of Red Hook Board of Trustees as lead agency that this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. And that concludes the EAF review. 2 and 3, yes, the EAF Part 2 and 3. And that's included in the resolution that we have. Everybody okay with all that?
Yes.
Okay. The resolution to adopt local law 3 of 2023, entitled "A Local Law to Amend the Regulations for Daycare Facilities." Whereas a proposed form of local law C of 2023, entitled "Local Law to Amend the Regulations for Daycare Facilities," has been laid on the desks of the village trustees. Whereas the proposed law would reduce regulatory barriers to opening new daycare facilities within the village. Whereas a full environmental assessment form dated July 10, 2023, has been prepared on behalf of the board. Whereas in accordance with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, the board is required to determine the classification of the proposed local law. Whereas on July 11th, 2023, the village board classified the proposed local law as a Type 1 SECRA action and declared itself the only involved agency. Whereas the board has reviewed parts 1, 2, and 3 of the EAF and information obtained through its own knowledge, the public hearing, its consultants, and other agencies, and has sufficient information on which to base a determination of significance. Whereas the board has considered the criteria contained in 6 NYCRR 617.7 and thoroughly analyzed all identified relevant areas of environmental concern. The proposed local law was referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to Section 293M of the General Municipal Law, which responded on August 10th, 2023, that it was a matter of local concern with comments. And whereas the proposed local law was referred to the Village Planning Board and Code Enforcement Officer for review and comment, which did not provide a response. Whereas a duly noticed public hearing was held on August 14, 2023, during which all those who wished to speak were heard. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the board as follows. The board hereby adopts a negative declaration finding that the adoption of the proposed local law will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. The board hereby adopts the proposed local law as local law number 3 of 2023, that the village clerk be, and she hereby is directed to enter said local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the village code of the Village of Red Hook to give due notice of the adoption of said local law to the Secretary of State of New York and take all other actions as may be required by law. The village clerk be, and she hereby is directed to file notice of the negative declaration with the environmental notice bulletin. May I have a motion to accept this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you all for coming tonight. We really appreciate your taking the time to be here. And
Thanks.
and we wish you the best of luck, and we hope to see you in the planning department very soon.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Resolution number 40.
Resolution number 40. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Right. All right. Now we have some general business, regular business items. Okay, what I am proposing to you will be Resolution 41. And this is related to authorizing the solicitation of public bids for water system SCADA upgrades and the water tank rehabilitation. Just to remind you, the water system SCADA upgrades is related to the controls of our water system. So the controls, they monitor and control the pumps, which pumps are on, when they're on, and and Charlie, help me here if there's something else I should be saying. But our control system is functioning, but it is not optimal. And so this is an opportunity to optimize the SCADA system, which is something that we've needed to do for a while. And then the water tank rehabilitation is related to, the biggest item is going to be cleaning and painting the inside of the tank. There are a couple of extra items that go with it once they're up there on the top of that tank. We have received approval from Dutchess County Department of Health. We actually got approval for the SCADA upgrades today. And so we are ready to go to bid. And this resolution is, whereas Village Engineer Delaware Engineering has requested that the village proceed with advertising for request for bid for the water system SCADA upgrades and water tank rehabilitation. 2 projects included in the 2022 WIA grant. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Red Hook does hereby authorize and direct the solicitation of bids for the projects, with bids to be received by 1 p.m. on September 12, 2023 for the water system SCADA upgrades, and October 10, 2023 for the water tank rehabilitation, or such later times and dates as determined by the mayor upon consultation with the village engineer, provided that such publication shall appear not less than 5 days prior to the date set for bid opening. The attached advertisements, the copies that I gave you, there are the change, and Jen, just make sure I give you the right one. It's in the file. It's actually 20% MWBE utilization for both of them. And there will be a pre-bid conference on September 7th for the SCADA upgrades, and there will be no pre-bid conference for the water tank rehabilitation. The reason for the staggered bid results is that the SCADA program, the SCADA upgrades will need to be completed before the water tank rehabilitation can take place. So we're ready to go to bid, but we don't need to receive those bids until after we get the SCADA upgrades bids. May I have a motion to accept this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Charlie. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Melkorka. Any questions or discussion?
Just a quick question. You said 20% for the MWB
20%.
on both?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the current state requirement.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
41.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next item is regarding a project related to replacing variable frequency drives, which are VFDs, at well 13 and 14. I did amend this resolution, which I don't think I printed out my own copy. The key is that in the resolution, we don't name companies because we got several quotes. So this is, well, I'll read the resolution because it kind of covers what it's about. Resolution to approve project to replace the variable frequency drives, or VFDs, at wells 13 and 14. Whereas the VFD at well 13 is inoperable and unfixable and is necessary for the functioning of the well, whereas well 14's VFD is operating but will need replacement soon due to age and current functionality, and well 14 is located near well 13. And whereas our village engineer, Delaware Engineering, recommends that the VFDs be located as close to the wells as possible, and the VFDs are currently located at the water treatment plant approximately 200 feet away. And whereas the project was originally included in the scope of the SCADA project, but the timing is now more urgent. Whereas the largest cost is the electric cost, which includes excavation from the well to the water treatment plant and installing conduit, installing the new VFDs at the wells, running fiber from the water treatment plant to the newly located VFDs, and making the connections. Delaware Engineering has received, I think I wrote 3 quotes, actually. I think we received 4 quotes.
Yeah.
We actually received 4 quotes, so let's update that. And the lowest bid I did give you a copy of this. The lowest bid is actually $16,200, and that's from Whalen Electric in Kingston. And whereas there will be an additional cost to purchase the VFDs, which will cost approximately $5,800, I may be a little off on that because the two wells, the VFDs are different sizes, but the cost, it's within that cost. So now therefore be it resolved that the project to replace the VFDs at well 13 and 14 is approved to proceed now for a cost not to exceed $25,000, and the mayor is authorized to award the electric work to Whalen Electric. And the cost will be allocated to the account, that's actually EW, because it's the water fund, 9710.8, which is the USDA reserve, which is there. We have $25,000 in that account. USDA reserve is for short-lived assets and that relate to the water system. And so this certainly qualifies, so that this seems like a logical place to put that. So with that, I would take a motion to approve this resolution, which will be Resolution 42.
So moved.
Oh,
We'll take Charlie and then Steve. How about that? Any questions, comments, concerns? Oh, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. Is that everybody? I should go, let me go down the road. I should be doing that. Deputy Mayor Carval, sorry, it's been a long day.
Aye.
Trustee Lang,
Aye.
Trustee Bradley Reichert,
Aye.
Trustee Appenzeller,
Aye.
and Mayor Smythe is also aye. Thank you very much. This is it's an important project, and that'll be a good one to get going. All right, the next one, Village Planner recommendation. I'm going to toss that over to you, Steve.
Okay. In connection with what's now known as the Gateway Project, which is a mixed-use housing development which has home ownership, some obtainable housing, rental housing, commercial. There's a lot of complexity to that, which necessitates contracting with a planner to help the village. And basically, the things that we need to do are make sure that our current zoning is modified to accommodate these uses, identifying infrastructure and integrating it seamlessly into the village. And we were very fortunate that Victoria Polidoro, the village's land use attorney, made recommendation of a number of very well-qualified planners who could help us with this work. And the mayor and I received written qualifications from and had Zoom meetings with 3 of the firms who were on the list. And based upon that work, which was actually pretty extensive and I think a good learning experience for both of us, we enthusiastically recommend Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees as the planner that we would like to engage. And on the sheet that everyone has, what we tried to do is lay out each of the 3 planners that we met with, NHB Planning, AKRF, and Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees, looking at some of the factors that led us to this conclusion. And as I mentioned earlier, we were very fortunate that any one of these planners, I think, would have done a really good job. But that being said, NPV stood out, as pretty clearly the best choice, we believe, for that. And, I'll just go through, the points at the bottom of the page which summarize why we came to that conclusion. One, we felt that MPV had the best understanding of Red Hook and our objectives. And they really understand this kind of project, have really deep experience with that. And like most of the planners, they feel as do we, that engaging with the community is really important, early on in the process, trying to build consensus, identify, issues, and helping shape the zoning to that. And I think their approach to scoping out the work was especially insightful. There's any number of ways you could go about a project like this, and we felt that MPV offered the best vision as to what that approach would be. And in summary, there's really two kind of main pathways you can take for a project like this. One is sort of bottom up from the village, coming up with what we feel are the best criteria for the zoning changes, and how do we make sure that that reflects the character of Red Hook and also incorporates our community's vision. The other way is having that driven by the developer, who will be ultimately building the project. And then there's kind of a hybrid approach which blends both of those, kind of that bottom-up approach, what we would like to see, also incorporating what the builder, the developer, is proposing for doing that work. And I think they created the clearest pathway to how that would work out. And we felt especially comfortable with their approach and some of the anecdotal things they've shared about other work that incorporated that type of approach. Doing it that way also offers the ability to offload some of the costs to the developer, being paid out of their escrow. But above and beyond the approach, which we feel would be an efficient approach, they had by far the lowest factor costs. If you looked at the table, the cost for the most senior people, the partners at MPV, was $150 an hour, and that compares to $235 or $250 an hour for the other firms. So it's about 60% of the cost. And they also, being what I would call a mid-sized firm compared to NHB, which is a boutique with one principal who engages with a network of folks to help, and AKRF, that would be a pretty large-scale firm that operates regionally and also has projects nationally. As you kind of move down the pay scale to some of the folks you can offload work to, there were benefits there as well. Out-of-pocket costs, which we're not sure at this point to what extent those would be incurred, but any project of this nature would certainly have those. They bill those through with no markup, compared to a 10% markup from AKRF, and it unknown, what the markup might be from NHB. But again, the factor costs definitely are in our favor with them, and references were really very strong. In particular, Hyde Park, who we know well and were able to get some good information from, has worked very extensively with MPV, and I think is their lead planner agency, and they're handling their planning needs more or less across the board. They cited MPV as fast and efficient and enthusiastically recommended them. And, to the extent you can come to a conclusion during, introductory meetings, the fast and efficient certainly seems credible based upon the conversations that we had. One of the things which is also important, this is obviously a very critical project for the village, but I think going forward there will likely be the need for a planner to help with other initiatives, other projects going forward, and we believe the opportunity for a productive working relationship with MPV is there to serve the planning needs of the village above and beyond the Gateway project, or for other aspects of the Gateway project that may emerge later on. So in summary, we believe there's really good total value here, and they will provide, quality services to the village. So based upon all those factors, we came with our recommendation to engage NPV as the planner.
Yeah, I'd like to just add a couple, if it wasn't clear. This is related to the Cookingham project on the east side of Route 9. While it's the town that is in the process of purchasing the property, and establishing conservation easements on a large portion of the property that's being purchased. There is the 12 acres on the southern portion of the village section that was set aside for development. And the goal, as stated, was for affordable housing. We in the village, this project will be located in the village. We have, it will be our job as the village board to create the framework that we believe is the right framework for this development project. And so it made perfect sense to hire a professional planner to help us in that process. And that process will include, as Steve mentioned, public input, which is very important because this is an important project. If you think about it in terms of, when someone owns a property, they don't, we, the village, don't have a whole lot of say of who it gets sold to, but we can control what happens to that property based on our zoning. However, selling development rights is not something that we can get in the middle of. And this is what the seller of the property wanted to do. And I think we have an opportunity to facilitate to the best that we can the opportunity that we have with this property. I will also mention, if you, on looking at the project costs, I want to clarify that we did not give a lot of specifics. It was kind of general. And it was really helpful in the learning process of understanding how these things might go. And the fact that the project costs aren't too far apart, given how little information we gave them. And one of the first steps is to dig in more deeply and come up with a real scope of work, and therefore, we would say in my old world, scrub the numbers so that we have a tighter understanding of what the costs will be. You will see later that I have a resolution for a budget adjustment to add some. We had put $15,000 in the budget for a planning consultant, and I think it would be prudent for us to put in an additional 10, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Yeah, those are the two things I wanted to add. So any questions, concerns? I'm thinking that we'll do a motion to accept the recommendation.
So I just have a question. If we accept the recommendation, are you going to move forward hiring them? That's the...
Post haste, yes.
Got it.
So I'm going to make a motion that we, well, probably shouldn't do that. Do I have would someone be willing to accept the motion that we hire NPV as our planning consultant? May I have a motion? That's the word. It really has been a long day.
Okay, I'll make that motion to
Thank you, Charlie.
accept MPV.
Second?
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is related to the 2022 firefighter records. This is for the LOSAP program. As a reminder, that's Length of Service Award Program. We have now received the numbers from 2022. So I'll just read the resolution. Whereas Article 11A of the New York State General Municipal Law requires that a list of firefighter volunteers who earned a service credit during 2022 be certified under oath by the fire department and submitted to the program sponsor, which is the Village of Red Hook. And whereas the program sponsor must review and approve the 2022 firefighter records listing, and whereas the Red Hook Fire Company has provided the Village of Red Hook Board of Trustees with the 2022 firefighter records, whereas the 30-day posting for review at the fire department has already occurred. Normally it occurs after we have reviewed it, but it occurred from June 6 through July 12. And whereas there were no changes made to the firefighter records during the review period, Thus, it didn't seem to necessitate an additional 30 days. Now therefore be it resolved that the 2022 firefighter records be approved after board review, and that the mayor is authorized to sign the 2022 sponsor authorization form that will authorize the program administrator, Penflex Actuarial Services, to use the data submitted to determine the funding requirements of the service award program. May I have a motion to accept this resolution, which is Resolution 43?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Who's that? Kim seconds. Any questions? I have the originals, and the process is you take a look at it and then you sign this paper. So please don't leave without reviewing and signing. Any questions? Comments, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Suppose I should ask if anyone's opposed. Thank you. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about, so at our last board meeting, we passed a resolution to put an increase of the LoSAP award, annual award, from $500 to $1,200. Subsequently, I've been in contact with the commissioner of the Board of Elections for the county, and because the village elections are run by the village and not by the County Board of Elections, we are not able to put this resolution on the ballot in November because that election is run by the Board of Elections, and that's not how we do our elections. That is also true in Tivoli. So I have been in contact. So what we need to do is we need to hold a special election specifically for this item. I know that just made Jen's day. And it makes no sense to do it on the same day as the regular election because people would have to go to two different places. It will be somewhat confusing. So the communication around this will be important. So what the Tivoli Board has reviewed and discussed, and what they felt was that being closer to election would be better, but not too close. So not during early voting, which starts on October 28th, I believe. And so the thought is to do it on a Tuesday because that's when we normally do our elections. And their thought was to do it on October 24th. Would love to have you all chime in as to whether or not you feel that's a, well, and before we go there, the other is, because of the way this is all done, we are required to do the special election within 60 days of passing the resolution. I will apologize for not having done this due diligence before we did this, because I was told we had to get it to the Board of Elections by last week, so there seemed to be a rush, and now, of course, we're finding that we rushed too fast. So if we were to do it in October, we just need to rescind this resolution, which we can do at our workshop or at the next meeting, and then redo it so that we can do the special election within 60 days. Any thoughts on October 24?
I think that makes the most sense for clarity to have it at the same time as Tivoli's. That'd be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think the mayor of Tivoli and I both agreed that whatever day we pick, we should pick the same one, and they've just had a discussion before we did. Any other thoughts on dates? So we're going to go with the October 24th then.
Is there an issue for the village clerk? Oh, sorry.
October 24th? Well, I can chat with the mayor of Tivoli, maybe we'll.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, we're not really deciding on anything today because, there's further, I just wanted to bring up the issue so that you were all aware, so that we can proceed. There will be formal things that we'll need to do at our next couple of meetings. Okay, the next item is the court audit. You have all received the court audit, which was done for our fiscal year ending May 31st, 2023. And this audit was done again by Lori E. Doty, the Certified Public Accountant. And let's see if there's a summary that I can just say quickly. Basically, the work is all being done as it should. There were only 2 instances in which deposits tested were not made timely within 72 hours of receipt. Those deposits were made. Sometimes what happens is if it's court on Wednesday, it doesn't get to the bank right away, but that only happened twice in her review. All reports were filed as required in the Office of State Controller. All checks were drawn on the correct bank accounts, and the noted monthly statements signed by the justice amounts all were done properly. So with that, I would like to make a motion to accept the Justice Court Auditor's report for 6/1/22 to 5/31/23. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions or further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Okay, the next resolution is, so we did this before for our other reserve accounts, but what we need to do is we need to formally approve transferring monies from the budget to the reserve account. So it will come out of the water fund and go into the USDA reserve. So this is a resolution to transfer funds from the water fund to the USDA reserve account. Whereas a resolution is required to transfer budgeted reserve funds to their respective reserve account. Whereas the remaining budgeted amount for the USDA reserve account, AW 9710.8 in the water fund, as of 5/31/23 is $4,867.22. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Red Hook hereby accepts and approves transferring this amount to the Village of Red Hook USDA Water Fund Reserve. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next item is a little longer. The treasurer and the controller and I have met to review the year end. We believe that we have all of the expenses, all the invoices related to last year, and we have reviewed all of the revenue to make sure that we have what we believe we should be recording. And so with that, we have quite a few line items that need adjustments to match the actual. So this resolution, Village Board desires to amend the general water and sewer fund budgets to reflect final 22-23 year-end information and expenses. And the budget adjustments, so if you look, you've got a page of revenue adjustments for the general fund. The next page, the next 2 pages are, well, so let me just comment. Couple key things. The sales tax distribution significantly higher than budgeted. And it was a good year for the county. We get a formulaic percentage of the sales tax for the county. The SRO revenue, the budget was based on the contract. The school decided to do a 12-month payment plan, so that meant that there were June, July, and August are in this year's budget, which is why it is under budget. It's not that the contract's not being followed. And then just the grants from local governments, that's our MIG grant. It's a 2-year grant, and we just didn't spend as much as we expected in that budget. And then if you go to the account, the expense side, the biggest numbers are the building roof repair. It does not appear to be an imminent problem, and we chose not to proceed. The other general government support line is is in there to establish a little like a reserve, the opportunity for fund balance. So if this money is available at the end of the year, it then goes into the fund balance. And just to clarify, under village police and then the village officer salary, the other was a payout when someone, when an officer left. This was PTO that was remaining, and that just got incorporated into the line above. Let's see. And then you'll see snow removal, the general business district clearing. We didn't need that this winter, though I just read about the Farmer's Almanac, and we might well need it this coming winter. The language access grant, again, we didn't use what we did. The portion that we did use, we do need to apply for reimbursement. And that's the major portion related to the general fund. I will say that the end number, which I didn't include here, is we actually have a positive variance of just over $100,000, which frankly is still a surprise to me. I have to look at it again. I guess if you think of 49,000 extra in the sales tax?
39, I think.
Yeah, 49,000, so roughly 50,000 increased in sales tax, and we didn't do the 30,000 for the roof repair, so that's 80,000 plus the 24,000 of fund balance. That gets us close. So a happy problem to have. And then for the water fund, the water meter sales, as we have talked about before, the meter head that sends the information from the meter out to our reader, that we have found many of them that have been faulty and have been under-reporting what the meter is actually reading. We've confirmed that the meter is reading correctly, it's just not telling us the right number. So we've had a number of accounts where there's been a makeup bill, which is part of what is included in the 59,000 extra. I also, a year ago, didn't fully understand how this all worked, because there's a carryover, an accrual, and I thought I got conservative on the budget. So, because last year we did 540,000, so that's also part of the overage there. And then if you look at the expenses, the water repairs was a conservative budget, because the year before I think we were at about $80,000 in what we spent. There were emergencies in that one, and there was a major repair at the Four Corners. And then just at the bottom, I just want to comment that there's an increase in the interfund transfer for the sewer. And in evaluating and separating out the capital cost from the O&M cost, we really do need to match those two, and so that's the money that's needed. And I know this board, not necessarily all of this makeup, but has talked about how as we get ourselves going and figure out what the actual costs are associated with the sewer O&M, that we will need to make some adjustments, and so that's the adjustment. And then for the sewer fund, again, the capital charge is accrued for next year. That all of that funding will go towards paying off our long-term loan associated with the capital project. And the interfund transfers there. The grease traps, the 40,000 was an estimate, but that was also based on having grease traps available to be emptying sooner than we did. Originally, the project was to be completed in November of 2022, and it did not complete until the end of March 2023. That was still a high budget. And so we'll be looking at that to see how that's going as the year goes on. And then the capital construction part, this is literally just timing. The numbers, the contingency will go away. We've used that up, so that will go into other accounts. But this is just a timing issue. And this is all paid for by the bond anticipation note and the grant that we have from EFC and USDA. So that is, so now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Red Hook amends the general water and sewer fund budgets as shown in the schedules above. I would appreciate a motion.
Can I ask for just a clarification? We have
Absolutely.
2 copies, and I mixed them up, the one that's new and one that's old.
That's not the one.
Oh,
That's,
it's not it all. It's
that's
just
coming
this one.
later.
Got it, okay.
We're just doing that one right now. The
First
one
one, okay.
you're asking about is for current year adjustments.
Got
And
it.
I will explain to you which one is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So may I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Thank you, Mel Corca. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie. Any further discussion, questions, issues? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And I just want to thank the treasurer and our controller, Michelle Zagorski, for getting us to this point. The AUD, which I think is changing its name, will be following soon thereafter. 45, thank you. Okay, the next item is, so this is for current year budget adjustments. I did it separately because I was getting confused. So the correct one, the revised one, is a little longer on the general fund. So if you look on the general fund part, the one that you want under revenues shows prior year fund balance of adding 21,500 to our budget.
And that's the one that we want?
That's the one you want, yes.
Thank you.
So this one is, the key items here are the unallocated, if you look under expenses, the unallocated insurance, the NYMER invoice has come in, and this is based on actual. I will start by saying I think I was having a mind freeze when I did this budget because I budgeted it for it to go down, which insurance never goes down, so I'm not sure what happened. But it's an increase of 5%, which is a lot, but it's not as much as it appears based on this budget adjustment. I do have the detail on all of the individual pieces that go into it. It's auto insurance, it's umbrella, it's inland marine. There's a separate law enforcement piece. There's general liability, public officials liability, cyber liability. And I have not gotten the details from last year to do a comparison as to which went up the most. But I will do that at a future time just to share with you. So that is a key piece. And then the other is Lexipol. The actual cost of Lexipol, it's a total, it includes the setup, which is about $14,000, and it includes an annual fee of about $5,000. And so we had 11,000 in the budget, but not enough to cover all of that. And so this does that. And I'm proposing that we add 10,000 to the budget, to the planning consultant budget, which is the planning contract expense. And you'll note for zoning per serve, that there's 45,000 being moved from the zoning per serve line to the contract per serve, and that's because we have hired Z3 consultants, as you may recall, to cover our building inspector, code enforcement officer, and zoning enforcement officer. And so to cover that, given that we have such a sizable fund balance from last year's budget, I am proposing that we use 21,500 of that to cover these extra expenses. And just to give you a sense, and I know some of you have saw Mayor Ed's chart with the fund balance. One of the things that we will do sometime in the next few meetings is a fund balance policy, but one way to do a fund balance policy is to say a percentage of your budget. So if you look at our general fund budget, it's about $2.2 million. And so 20% of that is $440,000. We're at that number before the 100,000 from last year. So I feel very comfortable suggesting that we use that funding. And then just under the water fund, the unallocated insurance, there's a portion that I put in there. And the valve exerciser that I believe we've spoken about, that went under the tool line, which is the right place for it to go, but it put us a little over budget, so I'm making that adjustment. And then the sewer fund, on that, we are required by USDA to create a reserve fund for the sewer. And the amount, they actually designate the amount, which is $18,159 annually. And so that adjustment allows for that to happen. So that's what I'm proposing for this resolution. Any questions? Yes, I know. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions, issues, concerns, thoughts? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent, and that's 46.
46.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's all the regular business. Just to acknowledge, there's a lot of good stuff that we just did, so thank you very much. The next meetings are the next village workshop, and we hold the workshop on the second floor in the conference room, is August 24th, which this month is next week. And then the next village board meeting is on September 11th, 2023. And I will propose a moment of silence on September 11th to remember that day and why it is significant to us as a country. Okay, now we are on to department committee reports. And we will start with our star treasurer, Ms. Urban.
Evening, Board. So I'm here to give you the Village Treasurer Report for the month ending July 31st, 2023. In our general fund, we have $1,774,669.33. Our water fund has $521,302.58. The payroll clearing account has $35,356.76. Our sewer fund has $90,550.16. Hardscrabble account is $8,188.48. The Village Green has $7,674.32. Health insurance has $5,862.95. And our petty cash is holding steady at $60.83. The reserve checking balances at the end of July were Fire Department, $5,068.81. Police, $14,687.98. USDA, $134,978.17. Highway Reserve, $26,369.55. Snow, $3,302.41. Tower Reserve, $17,835.24. Unemployment, $4,575.89. Court Reserve, $3,321.65. And the Office Reserve is $979.31.
Lori,
Yes.
before you go on to the next, just to clarify, these numbers do not include the 2,500 for the items that we had in last year's budget, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yes, all those year-end transfers are not reflected here. The monthly expenses for July were general fund $148,876.37. Water fund $11,233.06. Payroll clearing account $2,448.10. And the sewer fund spent $525.43.
Super. A motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Thank you, Mel Corca. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, now we have reports. The police report. Lieutenant Hildebrand has begun the process of implementing Lexipol, which is the software system that will house and keep up to date all of our police policies. Lieutenant Hildebrand has begun that process of reviewing the policies with the assistance of Lexipol personnel. This process will take months to complete if continued regularly. It'll take a good 6 months, and so it is expected to be somewhere between 6 months and a year before it's all finished. But I will provide updates as we have them. Incident report. For the month of July, there were 236 incidents, 120 in the village of Red Hook, 100 in the town of Red Hook, and 16 in the village of Tivoli. There were 114 water tower security checks. There were 74 uniform traffic tickets. The village of Red Hook, 38, town of Red Hook, 27, and village of Tivoli, 9. Parking tickets in the village of Red Hook, there were 6, town of Red Hook, there were none, and in the village of Tivoli, there were 9. There were 4 arrests, 2 in the village of Red Hook and 2 in the town of Red Hook. And the fire incident report, I did receive that from the Red Hook Fire Company very early this morning. Appreciate it. So there were, in the month of July, there were a total of 34 incidents with, as is typical, the largest number were in the 300s, which is an EMS call, rescue, incident, or medical assist. And the second largest was alarms, smoke alarms, CO alarms, et cetera. And then this month we had 5 assist invalid service call or person in distress. There were 65 incidents outside the village with the same pattern of type of call. So there's that. Whoops, I went too fast. There's my report back. Hold on. So organized. And regarding the fire department, on July 28th, I met with Rob Fry and Ron Reinders of the Red Hook Fire Company to begin our contract renewal discussions. We had a good discussion with the fire company sharing some of their concerns and needs coming up. And I've requested copies of their most recent annual report, Form 990, their adopted budget, and their capital plan. All of that to help us understand what they have planned going forward so that we can support their work. They will return with those documents so we can continue our discussion. Personnel, I don't think I mentioned last month, but Diana Devons is our new deputy village clerk. Diane started work on June 20, 2023, and she is learning the ropes, and she did a terrific job while Jen Kavanaugh was on vacation last week. And as I mentioned, the NYMER insurance package invoice came in, and you saw the budget adjustments. In reviewing why it was so off, again, I miscalculated and planned for a decrease. That was obviously wishful thinking. It was actually 5.3% increase from last year. And then the Northern Duchess Alliance Executive Committee did not meet in July. The next report I have is the library report. The Red Hook Public Library held their regular board meeting on July 20 at the library in the third floor conference room. I was not able to attend the board meeting, but library manager Alex Geller met with me on July 21st to review the board meeting and library activities, of which there were many. Board developments. There are several changes to the library board. Treasurer Josh Bardfeld's term ended at the end of June, and he did not seek to renew. Board Vice President Sally Dwyer McNulty has resigned her position on the board as of the end of July. Amy Houston has stepped down as secretary effective immediately. She was approved as treasurer. Sarah DeVere was approved as secretary. The board will be hiring an independent treasurer as a paid position. The board treasurer will become financial officer, actual title to be confirmed at a later date. There are currently 3 applicants for the board positions. There are 2 open board positions. The board will make their recommendations to the village board following their process. Personnel, Alex Geller was formally approved as library manager. Trish Scully has had a title change from library clerk to library assistant. Dawn Jardine resigned her position as consultant as of June 23rd. Toby Teeger resigned his position as interim library manager as of June 29th. The hiring process for an assistant library manager includes several upcoming interviews. The first week of August is the target for a decision. Any further staff requirements will be reviewed in the coming months. Regarding policy, a public policy display was reviewed and approved. The policy says no political flyers, yes to all programs free and open to the public. New procedure is for any flyer to be handed in at the circulation desk to be reviewed and stamped by the library manager, then displayed if there is room available. Grievance policy was reviewed and approved. This includes a form and standards for grievances. Finance, the spending is starting to level out with the settling of staff and making up purchases that had been delayed waiting for the new manager. The budget process for 2024 will begin soon. The board is discussing increasing their mortgage payments due to savings availability. Under programs, program attendance is down due to less programs. However, per program attendance is up versus year ago. Foot traffic into the library is also up. The board approved using the generous donation in memory of Catherine Dangnes, apologies for the name, to go toward creating a more usable space outside of the conference room on the 3rd floor to be called Catherine's Corner. Alex is also looking to use the main floor more efficiently and to create a more welcoming space. He will also be reviewing the regular hours for the library. Summer reading is going well. Patty Bowman generously donated coupons for kids who finish their summer reading requirements. I did not indicate, for those who don't know, Patty Bowman would be Holy Cow. And we can best thank Patty by going to Holy Cow and having some ice cream. Spanish as a second language will return at the end of July. The library plans to do a survey regarding programs soon. Grants, Alex is in the process of applying for 4 grants, 1 to help with the cost of repairing the stucco on the outside of the building, 1 to support renovating the porch, and 2 smaller program grants. Buildings and grounds, a new sign for out front of the library has been ordered. The landscaper has been working on redoing the garden beds, including the ones in front of the library, under the sign, and the children's garden. Communications website, the website calendar is being changed to a different format, ASSAABT, which will simplify the process of signing up for programs and general communication regarding these programs. And there's a special project. Alex is investigating the possibility of having all Red Hook Central School District children automatically get a library card. He's in discussions with the school district and with Tivoli Library to see what might be possible, likely to start with 1 class in middle school. And that is the library report. And last, but definitely not least, is the sewer project report. So just to review, the substantial completion of the sewer project was achieved on March 30th, 2023. Restoration and punch list remain to be completed prior to final completion being achieved. Many things have been addressed. There are still some items that are outstanding. General contractor Carver Construction has been back to do some paving repair, fill in settled areas, and provide some reseeding. And I've not gotten the most recent punch list. But I do know that the following items are still outstanding for the electric contract, the propane tank at the wastewater treatment plant site. There needs to be a scheduled startup and training session. And they need to complete the installation of the roof on the control panel structure. For the general contract, they need to perform final inspection of each step control panel. fix any issues with electric seals. Carver shall provide a letter stating that they have performed the required final inspection of each control panel. I will say that Jake has also been checking quite a few of these, and I think hopefully we are at a point where there isn't much left in that department. There was one spare part that was used to fix another one, and so that spare part needs to be replaced. Otherwise, all spare parts have been delivered. We do need our O&M manuals, which is operation and maintenance. We also need what we all refer to as our as-built, which is record drawings of the project. In other words, what was actually put in, how it was put in, as opposed to the proposal. And then the photographic documentation pre- and post-work, which was part of the contract. Relating to financing, our loan with USDA RD closed on August 11th, which was this past Friday, for $3,673,000. The original loan was for $3.7 million. We have made $27,000 in principal payments to EFC, which accounts for the reduction in the final loan amount. This funding was sent out today by wire transfer to New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, or EFC, to reduce the short-term financing that we have received from EFC. We kept this loan from USDA because it gave us access to the $1.2 million grant from USDA Rural Development, which will cover the remainder of the project costs. The EFC short-term loan will be closed and replaced with the long-term zero-interest financing for the full project amount. When that financing closes, the USDA RD loan will be paid off. The USDA RD loan has a 1 7/8% interest, so there will be an estimated $34,000 in interest to fund at the EFC closing. And just as a reminder, the project costs are funded as follows. So the total project cost is $8,447,118. There's the $1.2 million grant from USDA RD. There is a $925,000 WIA grant from EFC, and that leaves the amount remaining to be financed of $6,322,118. We have made some principal payments. Prior to my getting here, there was a $14,000 payment plus the $27,000 in payments, so those two have gone towards the payment of the principal. And the exact amount of the project cost has not yet been determined. It will be very close to the $8,447,000. But those numbers haven't been totally finalized yet. We do have an outstanding change order, I would argue 2 outstanding change orders that need to be finalized. And so that is the funding that will go into long-term funding later this fall, and that is why we have been collecting capital fees, because those fees will go directly to paying off the financing. And I did mention that we will be establishing a sewer reserve fund as required by USDA RD, and also just good practice, because doing anything with the plant in particular, it all costs significant money. So if we do a regular reserve, then we have the money saved up to do a bigger project when we need to. And so those are my reports. On to Deputy Mayor Caraval.
Okay. The following report is being compiled by Mayor Smythe until I'm able to step back fully into my role following partial family leave, which is the Red Hook Public Library report. Red Hook Together. Red Hook Together met on August 2nd on Bard campus at the Behringer House. The town of Red Hook and the village of Tivoli LWRP committees presented their local waterfront revitalization program plans. Tivoli's plan can be viewed at tivoliny.org/LWRP, and the town of Red Hook's plan can be viewed at redhookny.gov/276. The town of Red Hook submitted their plan to New York State and is awaiting their comments, while Tivoli is in the midst of their public comment sessions and welcomes feedback from the public.
If I can just add a note, the town of Red Hook's plan review, former Deputy Mayor Brent Kowalczyk was involved on that on that team, and I filled in for the last couple of meetings before it was submitted to New York State.
Great. They look very impressive, both plans. Red Hook Town Economic Development Committee. Biweekly meetings normally take place at Village Hall on alternating Wednesdays at 8:40 a.m. However, due to the availability of members during the summer season, the committee has been meeting on a more limited basis. The EDC met on June 26th, and the next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, September 13th. I was unable to attend this month's meeting due to a scheduling conflict. However, after reviewing the draft minutes, I was able to read that the mayor updated the committee on various village projects and events. And also that the chamber was doing a event called First Fridays, and she announced it then. They did
yes.
a sunflower theme for August, which was nice.
Yes.
The Village of Red Hook Communications Committee. The Communications Committee meets every first Wednesday of the month at 1:30 p.m. in the Village Hall Conference Room. This month's meeting was moved to August 9th due to travel and availability. We are focusing on creating a clear and concise explanation of what the village does, to be translated and used in outreach for the Language Access Grant. We also met and discussed some possible concepts for connecting to new residents and businesses. The Village of Red Hook Hardscrabble and Events Committee. The Events Committee meets every third Monday of each month at 6 p.m. at Village Hall. July's Neighbors' Night was rescheduled due to severe rain warnings. The rescheduled evening on August 4th had some light rain, but turned out to be a sunny, warm evening with a fair amount of turnout. We encouraged all attendees to visit the Friday night's concert and Chamber's First Friday in the Village Center. We again thank Red Hook Responds and their volunteers for help making these village events so festive by showcasing what their food trailer can do. Preparations for this year's Hardscrabble, taking place September 23rd, 2023, are ongoing. If you would like to sponsor the event, volunteer for the day, or sign up your institution or group for a booth, please contact us by email at events@redhooknyvillage.org.
And also just a reminder that the night before, so Friday, September 22nd, there will be Neighbors' Night in the village parking lot.
Yes. The Village of Red Hook Human Relations Committee. The Human Relations Committee meets every first Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. in the Village Hall Conference Room. Unfortunately, our pop-up exhibit, We Are Neighbors, was rained out both on July 14th and August 4th. Plans are underway to coordinate a way to display the exhibit during the Community Day portion of the Hardscrabble Festival. The committee met on August 2nd and discussed possible goals for the year. Members were tasked with researching and proposing goals ahead of next month's meeting on September 6th. And then also, I didn't submit this in my report, but that the Main Street Committee, just the update that we did submit the letter of intent that was approved at the last workshop for the New York Forward. So that's in the works. That was submitted today, which is why it wasn't in the report. Okay, and then I have the Highway Department report. So brush pickup. The pickup of brush and yard debris is scheduled for the first full week of every month, pending weather conditions and scheduling. Please be patient as it takes more than one day to get all the way around the village. As of now, the pickup is scheduled for once a month through the fall. And residents are reminded to place lawn debris and brush into separate piles and tree branches no longer than 6 inches in diameter. Brush that includes tree trunks, stumps, garbage, or construction material will not be picked up. The scrap metal program. The revenue received from the sale of scrap metal during the month of July was $2,412.50, which that means that's the total also for our fiscal year so far. Since the program's inception in September 2007, scrap metal donations have yielded a total of $50,290.56. And the proceeds of this program go to the purchase of tools and equipment for the Village Highway, Water, and Materials Management Departments. Residents and businesses interested in donating scrap metal may contact the Village Highway Department or the Village Clerk's office. Highway Department personnel will assist property owners by picking up scrap metal upon request. Highway Department.
Okay, we need a drum roll for this one.
Yeah,
This is big news.
Big news. the highway department equipment, the garbage and leaf truck. The new garbage truck with the leaf vacuum attachment, a 2020 International 4400 SBA 4X2, was delivered by Sycon Equipment Incorporated on Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. The purchase has been financed by a 6-month ban, a bond anticipation note, as approved by the board at our July 10th meeting. Depending on the proceeds recouped from the sale of the old garbage truck parts, the board will then determine by year's end how much of CHIPS funding and highway reserve fund will be used to offset a long-term 10 to 15-year bond for the remaining balance. And it looks great. And it already has a village name on the door, which is great.
Now it just needs some plates, some license plates.
A line striper. Highway foreman Jake Smith has proposed that the village purchase a paint striper in lieu of contracting out annually for repainting village street lines. Purchasing the proposed line striper would be a one-time cost of $5,000 rather than the $4,000 to $5,000 approximate annual rate of both borrowing a machine along with paying for the operator's time to run it. For the board's consideration, I have gathered quoted estimates for routine repainting of stops, bike signals, pedestrian walkways, etc. in the recent years for comparison. And as you can see, in 2021 it was $4,750, and in 2019 it was $4,220. And I think last year's the paint was hard to get, right? So we didn't do it last year.
There was a problem with the paint supply, and yes, exactly. So hopefully at our next meeting, we will have a quote for a line striper.
Seasonal projects, catch basins, an estimated quote for the annual catch basin cleaning of $8,400 for 3 days of service was received from Custom Streets Services Incorporated. Allocations from maintenance of streets, catch basin culvert 5110.46 will be used to fund the service. The estimate is lower this year because many of the catch basins cleaned out on a biannual basis were just cleaned in 2022. An annual repaving. Foreman Jake Smith has prepared a list of road repaving projects to be financed in whole or in part by the New York State CHIPS funding, Pave New York, and EWR and POP. Estimates are being prepared. Work for these projects is anticipated to be completed by the fall of 2023. And then I included in the report all the balances so far, the allocations and rollover. Do you think I need to read it out?
No, I just want to clarify, you've got Pave New York, Extreme Weather Recovery, and Pave Our Potholes, and those all have to go towards paving. It's CHIPS that we can do paving, we can also do equipment with CHIPS as well.
And then annual water valve exercising. Exercising water valves will be beginning, oh, did this not? I don't know if I thought I took this out. Anyway, it's going to be beginning this month. And then village tree pruning or removal. Damaged or ailing trees in the village right-of-way has been identified and marked with marking tape. A list of trees and the quote for removal will be shared in my next month's report.
Great, thank you very much. Trustee Lang.
Right. So, start off with materials management for the month of July. We collected 1.5 tons of commingled, 0.44 tons of cardboard, and 0.73 tons of paper for a total recycling volume of 2.67 tons. We also collected 3.98 tons of garbage, and together with the fuel surcharge, the costs of that garbage collection and disposal was $468.45. And during the same monthly period, we collected $2,469 in tags sold. So that's...
Charlie, is there there's an asterisk on June, or is that just saying that's the start of the year?
I think that's just pointing out that June is in fact the start of the year.
Got it, thank you.
And just looking at last year's July numbers were slightly We're slightly down from last year. Well, actually, no, the recycling is a little higher this year, but the garbage tonnage is a little lower, but not particularly significant.
So just a note, our new garbage truck actually has the ability to lift a bin up and in. And so I think the discussion of whether or not we offer a village bin with an annual tag is something we should
Right,
revisit.
we should revisit that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this new capability of the new truck. Good point. Moving right along to the Village of Red Hook Water Treatment Facilities monthly report. During the month of July, I believe my report says June, the water treatment facility treated 7,313,400 total gallons, which is an average of 235,900 gallons per day. And to put that in perspective, this month last year, that's a good 50,000 gallons per day less than last year, so that's good. And we're coming off a high in June of close to 250,000 gallons, so we are trending in the right direction. 3 bacteriological samples were collected and transported for analysis, although my report says that we were still waiting for the results on the lab for those tests. That must have come in by now. I think I'll just need to follow up with Mr. Dongo on an update for that. I assume, as has always been the case, that those bacteriological testing comes in clean. And during the month of July, the water treatment plant used 75 gallons of sodium hypochlorite. And that equates to an average daily use of 2.4 gallons per day. Otherwise, well, you touched on the SCADA issues and our contracting planning to get that fixed finally. And I received a nice notice that my water was going to be shut off tonight because of valve replacement on Linden, so that's good.
That's a valve that was identified as leaking a while ago, but not leaking as strongly as others that have subsequently been fixed, so.
Just hoping it's fixed
By morning?
by the time I get up in the morning.
I know that the crew is also hoping that it's done well before then.
I'm sure it will be.
I think they're going to start in about a half hour.
And other than that, I haven't heard anything from the Sawkill Watershed community. I don't know, I assume the Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board has not met. I need to check in because I haven't heard anything from them in a long time.
Right, yeah, so I will send an email to the supervisor and copy you and say,
Right.
so I think he has to, the town board may have to, I don't know, do we have to formally appoint you?
Maybe.
Maybe. I'd like to make a motion that we formally appoint Trustee Charles Lang
I
as,
second that motion.
you may. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done. You're official now.
I would think they would be drawing on some community preservation funds.
Very
for the
much so,
Cookingham
for
project,
both Cookingham projects, definitely.
which is great.
Although I think they may have had those meetings a while ago
Yeah,
to make the proposal in the first place.
I would assume.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Trustee Bradley Reichert.
Hi. All right, so there hasn't been any contractual expenses for the community beautification or the shade tree for the Village Green Committee during the month of July. And there were no Village Green Committee meetings held during this month. And part of the role of Village Green Committee is to promote access to green spaces in our village, and part of that is fulfilling bench requests and donations. And I'm happy to state that we just received the check from the VFW, who's donating benches to Memorial Park, so that will be ordered soon. Additionally, residents and businesses interested in having a tree planted in their adjacent village street or New York State Highway right-of-ways, volunteering for planting days, or sponsoring Village Green Committee beautification projects may contact David Pearson or myself or Jen Kavanaugh, the village clerk. And additionally, to add some beautification to Memorial Park, the VFW also approached the village with concern of landscaping around the memorial site, and we're happy to support the enhancement of Memorial Park, and that they will share a proposal of ideas as they move forward with the landscaping of that area. For the sewer department, for the month of July, the Village of Red Hook met with C3ND and the village engineer to discuss sewer updates, checking lists, and discuss plans for updating the code and to ensure proper billing and updates go out to our residents in the sewer use district. We had set up schedules to meet regularly on a bi-weekly schedule, and there are a few items, as the mayor said, still needing to be completed prior to full completion. And as a reminder to all residents, whether you're in the sewer use area or not, please be kind to your pipes. Please only put in the 3 Ps, pee, poop, and toilet paper. And while in the kitchen or near other drains, no fats, oil, or greases, also known as fog, because they clog up the pipes and make the system stressed. What goes down the drain matters. And if you are in the sewer use area and the emergency alarm goes off, call the village sewer operator, 845-758-1081, option 8. Press the silence alarm button only after notifying the sewer operator that the alarm is going off. We have no way of knowing unless you call. And please do not open the box or tamper with village-owned equipment. And for the speed limit initiative, there has been no new activity since we met in July. Thank you.
Thank you. And that leaves us trustee Appenzeller.
Okay, the Village of Red Hook Building Department monthly report is as follows. There were 7 building permits issued, 6 certificates of occupancy issued, 12 certificates of compliance, and 2 municipal searches. There was 1 order to remedy at 24 East Market Street, and there was no renewal of a building permit that was open. There were no stop work orders or court appearances, and there were 2 fire inspections, plus senior housing buildings, total of 4 buildings there. There were 3 complaints, 1 for 32 Phillips Street for property maintenance that was remedied, and there are 2 open complaints, 1 at 26 Fraley for a pod storage container, and the other at 67 Fraley also for a pod storage container. Planning board actions at the July 13th meeting was a signage approval granted for the property at 49 West Market Street. That's the attorney's office. There was a lot line alteration approval granted for property located at 35-39 Garden Street. And there was a site plan application for property at 7366 South Broadway that was tabled to the August 10th meeting. And then in connection with the Gateway/Cookingham East project, there were lot line alterations granted, and that's 75987617 North Broadway. There was a site plan application for a property at 29 West Market tabled to the August 10th meeting, and an application for a property at 59 Fisk Street also tabled to the August 10th meeting. And the Zoning Board of Appeals, there was an interpretation appeal application for 25 Fisk Street. The ZBA by resolution reversed the determination of the code enforcement officer regarding goats in the residential district. All of the activity for the building department resulted in revenue of $9,612.70.
Can I ask you a question, Steve? Sorry.
Sure.
Just because you're, in the building department report, is complaints, is that a new thing? Was it always listed, the address?
I think there usually, I believe there's nothing that shows up in that, but I believe that's a category that's been there previously.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'll also just comment that the significant portion of the revenue came from fire inspections.
And for Public Spaces Initiative, the big upcoming event is a fall pumpkin event named, naturally enough, Pumpkins in the Park. We had a very good meeting on August 3rd with Ash Bradley Ricard, who chairs the Public Space Initiative, met with myself, Mayor Smythe, and Amy Smith to discuss this event. There was a lot of planning, which is still ongoing for that. A couple of developments which are of note. The date is going to be moved to October 21st from 1 to 3 p.m. That resolves some scheduling conflicts with a lot of other events happening the weekend of Halloween, the parade, Day of the Dead, VFW, trunk or treat, etc. Obviously, all of these type of events need to be coordinated with soccer, which is a large and widely participated event that many young people in our community are involved with. And this would be probably a picnic-style, family-friendly event. One of the things which we learned was any kind of event, public event, needs to be ADA compliant, which makes planning a little bit more complicated. Specifically, there is a need to have free water available for folks. Bless you. Any food trucks, need to have a form filled out for liability and health. And the ADA accessibility includes having a bathroom that's ADA compliant, like what we had at Neighbors Night at Abraham's Park. And parking needs to be ADA accessible as well, which means if it's not immediately right in front, where there's only maybe one or two spots at Abraham's Park, a golf cart would be needed to move people from the school, which would be the overflow parking. There was talk about music being hosted, and I think, pumpkin decorating seems to be the key event rather than carving, both in terms of minimizing some of the mess that carving could entail, and for a first year also, not having to kind of figure out how to handle sharp objects, well, certainly you don't want the kids handling those, and it also simplifies logistically not having volunteers get there ahead of time and pre-staging pre-cut pumpkins. And one of the other things we learned is, initially the thought was that farms may donate the pumpkins. However, for the farms which do grow that's a big moneymaker for them. So instead, there will be some outreach to see if pumpkins can be purchased at a wholesale cost. And past experience was that 100 pumpkins cost around $450. Information will still be pending to see if that's a reasonable cost or if that's changed. And then there's work going on for volunteers, again, trying to get these wholesale pumpkins, contact food trucks, and contacting local businesses to see if they would want to participate. And there's ongoing planning, which will continue at the next meeting, which will be on Saturday, August 26th, 10 a.m. at Village Hall. Some other items, just very quickly, that were touched upon in the meeting is, kind of ongoing investigation of landscape opportunities for Abraham's Park, and obviously that would be informed with community involvement, and to try and get some subject matter expertise, bringing Amy Perella at Bard, and Amy manages the horticulture and arboretum at Bard, so not only is she a resident, she's, very knowledgeable in that area, and will, I'm sure, have some good input. There's work going on the Pollinator Pathway webpage, moving that forward. And we also discussed briefly establishing a pollinator garden somewhere near the front of Village Hall where we are today. And that's something which would be the first pollinator garden on village-owned property, if and when that comes to fruition. And there was discussion as well about bringing back arts on display at various places in the village, and possibly working with Bard, which has a curatorial program, and folks who have expertise in that and might be able to identify places where we could engage with artists to be able to see that to fruition. And finally, as part of kind of the ramp up of the Public Spaces Initiative, there's going to be a development of a yearly plan and a budget, so it'll be a little bit more formalized going forward into next year. So that's the Public Spaces Initiative report.
Super, thank you. Okay, that moves us on to general business. I don't have anything listed there. Does anybody have any general business they would like to discuss? Hearing none, we do have another public comment session. Anyone like to say anything? We'll take that as a no. We have no executive session this evening. I need a motion to pay bills after audit.
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Melcorca. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think that's everything. Do not leave without reviewing and signing the LoSAP 2022 records. And with that, I think I have a final motion that I need.
To pay bills after audit?
No, we just
already
did that.
Oh, amazing.
To adjourn, perhaps? Would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Great meeting. Thank you.